Yesterday, I ended up having a complete emotional breakdown. And I realized that I wasn't communicating very well in my relationship, and I also wasn't communicating very well to myself. Hey, how's it going? I hope that you're having a great day, and even if you aren't, that's okay. What I'm here to do today, this is going to be my first video of Jess's journal. Basically, I love journaling, and I normally journal in my journal, of course, but Cam and I decided that something that might be helpful to me and also helpful to you guys is to start doing video journals. And I just wanted to discuss and talk about what I've been going through recently and share some tools that I have learned throughout my life to deal with what I've been going through. The main topic of my video journal today is burnout. So yesterday I had a complete emotional breakdown. I just hit rock bottom where I just was crying over everything, and I felt super heavy emotionally, and I just reached this point where I completely fell apart. And the reason why this happened to me was because for quite a while now I've been extremely focused in on tasks and projects, and I started a new hobby, like learning about photography and videography, and we're currently in this really awesome course to learn about cameras and creating cool content and things like this. We've recently started an online e-commerce business, so I've been really focusing on that, as well as just like the normal activities of cooking and cleaning and just like kind of taking care of the house and taking care of my incredible husband, which it's very easy because he doesn't have many needs and he just kind of takes care of himself anyways. I've just been going nonstop. This happens to me all the time where I get really focused in on like a project or work. I end up just completely letting go of all self-care. I don't get any exercise, I don't eat that good, and I don't journal, I don't take time for myself. Like pretty much anything to do with self-care, I just completely let go of when I'm super focused in on work or a project. In the moment, as I'm feeling like really bad and I'm just having a bad day and I'm crying all the time and things like that, I just think like, God, why is this happening, And then I think about like, what have I eaten in the last week? Like, have I been exercising at all? Have I been doing anything to take care of myself? And the answer is no. And what I really wanted to talk about today is, one, just the simple fact that this is a cycle that happens to me all of the time, and I've learned so many cool tools throughout the years to prevent burning out. And even though I know all of these tools and I even share with other people these tools if they're having a bad day, a lot of times it's really difficult for me to stick with these daily routines and stick with these practices that I know help me to feel really good and help me sustain a really productive life, because I love productivity and I love doing things, and I tend to like to be in control and think that I'm just able to do everything and do everything perfectly, and I don't like asking for help, and I don't like relying on other people. I grew up with this culture of do and be really independent and take care of yourself and so on and so on, and I kind of preach all the time, like, take care of yourself and, take care of your needs and, stay connected to yourself and all of these things that I know really well, but don't necessarily always put into practice. What I want to talk about are mainly the tools that I have learned over time to prevent myself from burning out. I have been ignoring these tools, and that is exactly why I ended up completely burnt out. One of the best things that I know to do to prevent burnout is journaling. And I started journaling many years ago, and for a long time I was journaling every single day, and it was really helping improve my life. I was holding myself accountable. I was able to, get my thoughts out of my head, because I don't know about you, but I get stuck on these loops and I just get so up in my head, and I have negative thought patterns, or I just have like, these really extreme expectations that I set for myself, and if I'm not meeting them, then I get down on myself. Stuck is really the right word. I get stuck in these loops, and I feel like I can't move forward. Journaling has always been something that has really helped get me out of my head. Hence now why I'm deciding to do these video journals, because I just think, I'm not the only one who goes through these things. I'm not the only one that gets burnt out. And I'm hoping that by talking about what I'm experiencing and also sharing the tools that I've learned to help myself when going through these things will hopefully help you as well. So journaling, I would say, is the number one thing for me. It is a super simple thing to do. Sometimes I just journal 5 lines worth of stuff. If I feel like I don't have time, I try to at least get 5 lines in. Sometimes I write 6 pages. It really depends on what's going on in my mind, what I'm experiencing, if I'm having really good days, if I'm having more challenging days. In this moment, like yesterday when I had a breakdown, I had not been journaling for probably weeks on end, and this tends to always happen if I do end up burnt out. I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I haven't been utilizing any of these tools that I know so well to prevent burnout. So one is journaling. The second thing that I know helps me to prevent burnout and also helps me to deal with burnout once I've reached that point is getting out in nature. Whether that be going to the beach, going for a hike, simply walking outside and feeling the sun on your face. Nature is so healing. The energy from the earth is absolutely incredible. It really is very healing. And recently, like within the last 4 or 5 months, we've been living in a place that isn't really my favorite environment. There are no mountains here. The ocean is pretty far away. There's not really any beaches that are close. And I have not prioritized getting outside nearly as much as I usually do. This is probably the most landlocked I've ever been in my entire life. I always prioritize living near the ocean, and I especially love living near the mountains. And so right now I'm, in this place that doesn't have those things to offer us, although, the whole point of being where we are right now is to progress financially and to learn a lot and basically just be away from a lot of the distractions of normal, really enjoyable life. I knew that coming to this place where we are in this moment was going to be really challenging for me. And pretty much for the 5 months we've been here, each month I reach this breaking point where I just completely fall apart. And it keeps happening, and I think it's because I don't necessarily enjoy the environment as much as I normally do. I haven't prioritized getting outside that much. I haven't really been in the sun at all. This is, I think, like the most pale I've been in many years. The other thing as far as getting outside goes, it helps us to really ground down, like especially if you go outside and you take your shoes off and just feel the earth under your feet, like so important, so healing. And ultimately, if you're having a really bad day or if you've reached the point of burnt out like I have, just try going outside and smell the fresh air and just close your eyes, listen to the birds around you. If there's flowers around, take a whiff. Whatever you have at your disposal in your environment, really take advantage of that, because it's so important. And I have noticed in this time specifically that I'm feeling this burnt out feeling that I have not been outside. I don't go on hikes really very often or anything like that. Most of my time is spent inside on the computer, focusing on the new businesses that we just started or going through courses that we're working on, or whatever it may be. I just go, and I never ever take time for myself. I can admit that I'm absolutely horrible with personal boundaries. I'm really bad at knowing what my needs are and making sure that they're met. And, I'm so good at putting other people's needs in front of my own, like the needs of, self-care and connection. And, it's just so important to get outside and to journal, because these two things I know have prevented me from burning out a lot in the past. So another tool that I have to one, prevent burnout, and two, deal with burnout once you've reached that point is diet and exercise. And I know that when it comes to pretty much anything, they say just eat right and get exercise, and that will pretty much fix anything. It is completely true. Like, if you, or at least for me, okay, so for me, when I'm not feeling that good, if I'm feeling super lethargic and I don't really have a lot of energy or motivation, I'm not necessarily finding joy in the things that I normally find joy in, I start to think about what the last week or so has looked like for me. And always it looks like no exercise and not eating very good. So Cam and I, we eat pretty healthy. I absolutely love to cook, and most of the meals are mostly vegetables, and I love eating greens, I love salads, like I love to eat healthy, but I also love desserts. And usually I don't buy any sweets at home. I have nothing sweet around the house because my best way to not eat sugar is to avoid it at all costs, because my self-control when it comes to sugar is not good. But in the last week, I have worked more days in the restaurant than I have for the last month or so. I work very, very part-time in a restaurant, and just in the last week there's been a lot of events that I've needed to be there for, so I've been working more in the last week, and at the end of the events there's always a ton of food left over, and I absolutely hate waste, so I always say I will take all the leftovers and I'll bring it home for the housemates, blah blah blah. But then I see these desserts, there's brownies and cookies and all different types of treats, and I just think, oh, I love brownies, and then I'll eat a bunch of them and end up just not feeling very good afterwards. And since I've been here for the last 5 months, I've tried to really commit to going to the gym and to getting lots of exercise, and for a while I was doing pretty good, but in the last 3 weeks or so, since I've been really focused in on these new hobbies and this new project and getting our businesses going, I have completely quit going to the gym. Yesterday I woke up and just was in a horrible mood, and Cam was like, what's going on? I can tell that something is wrong. And whenever I get to this point of burnout, my communication just goes out the window as well. Like with Cam and I, we have incredible open communication in our relationship, and we talk about a lot of things all the time. We're always having open discussions. We're always checking in on each other to make sure that we're on the same page and that we're both feeling really good. But when I start to burn out, I just kind of shut down a bit because, one, I have very high expectations for myself. So when I start to burn out, I get really hard on myself, and I start to have these negative thoughts and not so nice things to say to myself about myself, like, why can't you just handle it, like, just push through, and I just don't ever allow myself a break. And the second reason why my communication shuts down is because when I am feeling burnt out, I feel like it is a complete personal problem, which it really is, because of my lack of commitment to these daily practices and to all these incredible tools that I know keep my needs met and keep me feeling really good. So when I start to not feel very good, I don't really want to talk about it to anybody. Like, I have friends that reach out to me, and obviously I have an incredible partner who listens to me all the time and always wants me to feel good. But I just kind of shut down, and I close myself off from them because I just don't want to burden anyone else with my personal problems. And this has kind of been something I've done my entire life, and I've tried to work on it, which is how I've learned about all these incredible tools and things like that. But even though I know all these tools, like, in my head and in my heart, it's still really difficult for me to break certain patterns, especially the pattern of, wanting to feel completely independent and not wanting to rely on anyone else, not wanting to disappoint anyone else. Like, a lot of these, thoughts that I've had and behaviors that I've had over time have just been developed by wanting to feel like I'm nobody else's burden, basically. Another thing is, if you feel like you're getting to this point of burnout, it's so important to talk to the people around you. Like, if you have a support network, really utilize that, because I guarantee you that the people in your life who love you and support you, they're not gonna feel like you are a burden to them. You know, everyone goes through bad times, and ultimately that is what your support network is there for, is to support you in the good times and the bad times. This is why Cam and I discussed me doing these video journals, because it gives me the chance to talk about what I'm going through and create community. I'm sure that there are many of you out there who have experienced burnout. Maybe you are experiencing burnout right now. Maybe you need somebody to talk to. Maybe, you know, maybe your support system isn't really that great, which, you know, I mean, I hope it is. I hope that everyone out there has a good support system, because it is absolutely crucial for longevity and well-being and some weird noise going on in the background. Anyway, so support system is super crucial to prevent burnout and then also deal with burnout once you've reached that point. So mainly the reason why I am here today sharing these, you know, thoughts that are going on in my head and sharing my experience is because maybe you're going through the same thing, or maybe you've gone through the same thing. And, you know, if you have any tools or tips or anything in your toolbox that has helped you to prevent burnout or overcome burnout, please leave them in the comments. And, you know, if you want to hear more random thoughts that are going on in my head or different things that I'm going through, whether it be challenges or maybe I have a really good day and I'll come and do a good journal. No, not maybe. I will have many good days in the future that I will be discussing and sharing with you guys. So if you want to join in on this journey called life, then maybe consider subscribing, and we can just keep this conversation going, and there will be many more conversations started as different things come up for me. And so yeah, I hope to see you around. Take care.